Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on using drugs.com to the fullest. Today, we're going to talk about the website drugs.com, which is a very user-friendly, handy website to look up drugs in various ways. So today, what I want to talk about are just very basic searches for medications. I want to show you what information is going to be listed for each drug. Usually, in most cases anyway. I'm going to show you how to do searches phonetically versus wildcard searches. I want to show you how to search by the condition. So if they're talking about what disorder this is going to treat, and how to search by drug class. So there are a lot of different ways that we can do searches on drugs.com. So let's get going. I'm going to close the PowerPoint presentation now. I'm going to open drugs.com. Okay, so here's what the website looks like when we first log in. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. So on the home page, we can go to drugs A to Z, which I'll show you in a little bit, which has a lot of information. If we want to get back to our home page, just click on their logo. Pill identifier, interactions checker, new drugs information. There's a pro edition. You can register yourself for an account if you wish. There's our very handy search bar. And again, some of these things we can go to in more than one way. So there's more links here: drugs, medications, pill identifier, and so on. So some of these will be searchable in different methods. And again, drugs A to Z, a link here, some of the same links below that are above. Browsing drugs by the first letter, browsing drugs by the treatment, condition, or class. Again, another way that we can go in. And browsing conditions, if you'd like to find more about the actual condition itself, you can do that as well. So I just want to show you very first off how to do a very basic search. So I'm going to use a drug that we tend to know, and that is ibuprofen. So I'm going to just type it in. You will notice that it starts to give you a list of suggestions. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, how that drug is capitalized in this drop down menu is how it should be capitalized, but we always want to double check that. So we can see here ibuprofen is not capitalized, but if it is called ibuprofen PM, that is likely a brand name because it's showing it capitalized here. So just as a heads up, but we do want to go in and double check it just in case. So I'm going to click on ibuprofen and it will go to the search results. Now, oftentimes it will pop an ad up here. So just give it a minute to load just in case. I am very good at trying to click on the link that I want and I accidentally click on the ad when it pops up. So just give it a minute to load the page. Now, you will notice in the search results that ibuprofen is always going to be capitalized. It's also showing it bolded here, capitalized, because in both of these cases, it's the first word of the sentence. So of course it would be capitalized. But let's just go to the link and have a closer look at more information about ibuprofen. So what's nice here is it has a pronunciation. I'm not sure if you can hear that through the webinar, but it has someone pronouncing the drug name. It gives you a breakdown of how to pronounce it. Now, it very clearly here will list the generic name as ibuprofen. Perfect. So even though it's capitalized up top as the title to the page, when we look at the generic name, it is very clearly ibuprofen. So if ibuprofen was dictated in the middle of a sentence, not the first word of the sentence, you would not capitalize it because our account specifics say we only capitalize brand name drugs. If you had a numbered list, such as medications, and then they said number 1, ibuprofen, you would have to capitalize it there because it would be very much like the first word in the sentence. And of course, if ibuprofen was the first word of a sentence, we would need to capitalize. It then gives us a list of brand names: Advil, Genpril, IBU, and so on. So if what you're looking for in your search was one of these brand names, you're going to capitalize. It also, in this particular medications page, shows you typical doses right here up top. I love it when they do this, but they don't always do that. So sometimes you need to come down here to the dosage link. We'll get to that in a minute. It's also giving me drug class. So depending on the medication you look up, it may give you very slightly different information in terms of whether it gives you the dose or the class up top, but it will always tell you what the generic name is and what the brand names are, which I love. If you're wanting to find out more about ibuprofen, they will give you all kinds of information, warnings, and so on. You can also use these shortcuts to get to that if you don't feel like scrolling. So let's say you're curious about what the side effects of ibuprofen are. You could click on that. It would take you right down to a list of side effects and even more, actually, if you want to open that link. It gives you medications that would interact and so on. If I just scroll back up to the top, let's say it didn't give me the dose, typical doses up top. I can always click on the dosage link, and it's telling me here the maximum amount of ibuprofen for adults is 800 milligrams per dose or 3,200 milligrams in a day, so 4 doses a day. Um, And if I want some more information, detailed ibuprofen dosage information, and I'm just going to go up here to the link to ibuprofen, and here's some more. So it might come in different strengths, um, different doses for different issues. So there's actually quite a bit of information given for the drug. Now, I want to look up another drug just to use as an example, Lipitor, which is one that I used to hear quite often. Now, I can either click on Lipitor, I can just hit the return key. I could click on the magnifying glass, whatever way you want to do your search. And again, here is the result. I'm finding it very interesting today that there's not a pop-up ad showing, but I will take it. So again, I will warn you, wait for things to load before you click because it does normally load a pop-up ad up top. So I'm going to click on Lipitor. Now here we can see Lipitor. Again, you can pronounce it. It has the generic name listed here as atorvastatin. So that tells me, okay, if the generic name is atorvastatin, then Lipitor is the brand version. Now it's also being nice and it's giving me the dose right up top. So Lipitor would typically be 10, 20, 40, or 80 milligram doses. Where the dose can be really handy is just to double check that you have the right medication if you're having trouble searching, but you could clearly hear the dose. So, for example, if a doctor said either 15 or 50 and you weren't clear what she was saying, you could come in and check to see what doses is that medication made in. If it was only made in a 25 milligram tablet, it couldn't be 15, it would have to be 50, 50. So I have used the dosage to my advantage many times. It's also handy for things like a lot of thyroid medications are given in micrograms rather than milligrams. So you can always come in here and double check that sort of a thing. Um, it's also useful for combination drugs, which we can talk about a little bit later. But again, here's all the added information. If you wanted more about the dosage, you could go here and have a look. It's not giving me a lot of dosage information, so I would have to click now on the detailed dosage information and you choose which one you want to go to and find more information about that. So recommended starting dose 10 to 20 milligrams once daily. Dose range is 10 to 80 milligrams once daily. So those are all handy things to know if you're trying to verify your medications. Another way that you can do a search is a phonetic search. So let's say you're not sure how to spell something, but you're pretty sure you know what the drug is. You can do a phonetic search. So what you can do is just click on this down arrow. Whoops, sorry. Click in, not the down arrow, but click into your search bar and then come down here to phonetic search. And now you can just type the drug in the way it sounds to you. So I'm going to use acetaminophen because it is a tough one to spell. It's a lot of vowels in there. So I'm just going to start to type it in, acetaminophen. That's how it sounds. So here's the examples of what it's guessing you might be saying. So I could then click on acetaminophen. Here's where one of those ads has popped up on me. So I'm going to scroll down to acetaminophen and go in and double check. Does the dose match what they say? You can have it pronounced. It is generic. So all that information that I would need is there. So again, for phonetic search, click in the search bar, go down to phonetic search. Um, the other type of search that I tend to prefer actually is a wildcard search. And a wildcard search is when you put in the sounds or parts of the word or medication name that you know you heard. So, for example, if we had heard, I'll give the drug name away. Say the drug is Invocana, and all we heard was in and then an O sound, and we could tell it ended with an NA, na at the end, but we really weren't sure what was between those letters. So if it starts with in, what I would do is put IN, and then I'm not sure what comes next, but I clearly heard an O sound. So I'm going to go asterisk to hold the place of the letters I'm not sure of, and then put an O. And so as you can see, it's starting to give me drug names that start with IN and have an O later in the name. Now I do see Invocana there, but let's just say I want to put in a little bit more information. I know it ended with a na sound, so I'm going to put an A, and again, it's narrowing it down further. So the more information that I can put in there, the better. Now you have to be very careful with wildcard searches because you need to be aware of letter sounds that make the same sound when you say them. So for example, a soft C and an S can make the same sound, or certain shorter vowel sounds sound very much alike. A PH and an F, for example, make the same sound. So sometimes when you're trying to find something, um, you might need to play with the letters a little bit. You know, if a soft C isn't finding what you want, try an S or vice versa. This is also where it's kind of nice if you're more familiar with some of the prefixes and suffixes of the typical drug names that you hear. So, for example, as you get to know them, you'll notice a lot of medications may end in the suffix "cillin," Cillin. So if you had heard something "cillin," you could put asterisk "cillin" because you know that suffix, and it would start to give you examples. Another really common one is "olol." There's a lot of heart medications, beta blockers that end with "olol," for example. So these are handy to know because it gives you a really good chunk of the name to help you search. So keep an eye on that. If you start to notice that you're hearing a lot of the same chunks of medication names, that can come in really handy down the road. So as we talked about, some of the letter sounds, different letters that can make the same sound. So let's just say I heard a drug name. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to just go backwards for you here. Diphenhydramine, if I'm even saying that right. So let's say all we heard was D, and we weren't very clear about the vowel sounds because, again, unless the vowel sound is really obvious, like I said, die, that would seem pretty clear that it's probably DI, but that could be DY, you know? DYE and DI make the same sound. So maybe I don't want to put that letter I in there because I'm not sure. And I heard fen. So again, it's definitely an F sound and an N, but I'm not sure the vowel. So I'm just going to put F asterisk N. And then I heard an H sound. So again, I'm not sure what's between. I'm just putting in the letters that I know for sure. And we heard a dra sound. So I'm going to put in DR. And again, as I'm putting them in, it's giving me results, but none of these are working for me as I'm looking through the possible results. Like, no, it's definitely not what he's saying. So what of these letters might I replace with something else that might work? I could maybe take one of them out. I could take that F out and see what I get, or I could put in a PH instead, and voila, here we have diphenhydramine. I think that might be what they're saying. So again, I'm going to actually go to the site. I'm not just going to assume that I've got it right. I want to go to diphenhydramine. I'm going to click on the link. I could hear it pronounced, but again, not all doctors are going to pronounce all of the medication names correctly. So take this with take it loosely, and just in case they mispronounce. diphenhydramine. So yay, I did pronounce it correctly. And it's giving me that as a generic name. Here are the brand names and show all 27. So clearly there's a lot of brand name versions of this. It's giving me the drug class, but it's not giving me the dose this time. So let's go to dosage and just double check. So as I scroll through here, it's not being nice to me this time. It's not giving me the dose right up front. So I'm going to have to click on detailed dosage information. Now I want this one, oral tablet, injectable, chewable. So as long as you know it's one of those, you're good. I'm going to click on that. Aha, here we go. So I could double check the dose compared to what they dictated, assuming they gave me the dose. You can also see what it's to treat in case they give you that information. You could double check that as well. So that is how we do a wildcard search. That is my favorite, but everybody's different. So play with that, see what you think. Another way that you can look things up is by the condition. So if we know what this drug is for, so the example I'm going to use is that we know they're giving a drug for multiple sclerosis, for example. So I could just go back to my homepage. There's a couple of ways you can do this. I don't want to hit browse conditions because that would just tell me about multiple sclerosis. So you can go to, I like to go to drugs A to Z. It's just how I tend to do it. And then I come down here and here's all different information. Honestly, the more you click around and play with drugs.com, the more you're going to find. So I want to go to drug treatment options. Okay. And you can see there's a lot of them listed. You could go to M and look at all the ones, starting with M. There will be a lot. Or I'm just going to go back a page here. I'm just going to start to type in uh, multiple. Oh, I cannot type when people are watching. Sclerosis. There it is. Okay. And now I've got information about it, but I just want to scroll down. Drugs used to treat multiple sclerosis. So where this can be handy is if a doctor has said this, we know this is for multiple sclerosis, but they just mangled that medication to the point where we can't get a wildcard search or a phonetic search. I have tried before where I've heard just a few letters out of a drug and landed the one that I wanted by chance, and other times not. But if I know it's for a certain type of condition, now I can go in here and try this. So you can sort these out alphabetically if you wish by just clicking on drug name. Now they're alphabetical. And even though that doctor really mispronounced or mumbled through that word, usually you can scroll through here and very quickly go, nope, 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 nope. You can usually tell when you hit it. If you want to see them all on one page, just click on view all. And now you can go through them. And if you think that you have hit the one that you want, then click on it and double check again. You want to make sure that you have it capitalized correctly. So generic name is something else. So this is clearly a brand. We want to, again, double check the dosage to make sure that that dosage matched what they said. So they are giving us some ideas of what typical doses are, and I can click on the dosage information for more. I have found medications quite a few times this way. So this is a very useful way if you're stuck, but you know what it's to treat. You can also, if we click on drugs A to Z again, this time I'm going to go in by drugs by class. So let's say they said, oh, we're going to increase his statin, or we're going to put him on a statin, and then blah, they said something. I didn't quite get it. So we can go to statins. This may be a very long list, but I'm going to alphabetize it because I find that easier. And there's a whole bunch. Now, interesting here, they're giving you it by the brand and then the generic. So I could sort it either way. Others will give you both, like a mix of both. So anyways, so you could go through and double check. And this is, again, you notice statin, statin, statin. So remember I spoke about getting to know your prefixes and your suffixes. So statin is a very common suffix. So again, you could click on it, double check it, look at your dosage, and so on. So that is another way that I've had luck looking up medications. So again, I just want you to get to know, play with it. If you want to do an advanced search, you can just click on that. This tends to be a little more than you need. I do find that usually the wildcard search works quite well. You can use the phonetic search. If you know the drug, just do your basic search. And then again, if there's not enough there for you to search, go by condition. If they happen to say what it's for, go by the drug class. And then always double check that things match in terms of the dose and so on. If it doesn't, either the dose or the medication is incorrect. And again, if you're not sure of the dose they're saying, but you can find the medication, you can go in and look what the typical doses are. If you're still not sure, you want to put a blank. But I have just found that drugs.com is very, very friendly to use. So play with this and get to know it. And then I think you'll find that it just goes a lot more smoothly for you.